The accusation, when 3-year-old Sophie pointed directly at the woman in the cereal aisle and screamed, "You took my baby last time. Where is my baby?" Her mother, Jennifer, felt the entire grocery store fall silent around them. The stranger, a middle-aged woman with graying hair and kind eyes, dropped her shopping basket, her face draining of all color as she stared at the small child who was now sobbing inconsolably and reaching toward her with desperate, grasping hands. "I'm so sorry," Jennifer stammered, trying to lift Sophie into her arms. But her daughter fought against her with surprising strength, her entire body straining toward the bewildered stranger. "She's never done anything like this before. I don't know what's gotten into her." But the woman wasn't looking at Jennifer. Her eyes were fixed on Sophie with an expression of recognition so profound it was almost frightening. Her hands were shaking as she slowly approached the hysterical child, moving like someone in a trance. "What did you say, sweetheart?" the woman whispered, her voice barely audible above Sophie's wails. "My baby!" Sophie cried, her small fists pounding against Jennifer's chest as she tried to break free. "You took my baby, and you never brought him back. I waited and waited, but you never came back." The woman's knees buckled, and she had to grip the shopping cart beside her to keep from falling. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Oh my God, it can't be." Jennifer felt a chill run down her spine as she watched this stranger's reaction to her daughter's impossible accusation. This wasn't the confused dismissal of someone dealing with a child's tantrum. This was the stunned recognition of someone confronting a truth they'd thought was buried forever. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Jennifer asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to hear the answer. The woman looked up at her with tears streaming down her face. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chun. I'm an obstetrician." Her voice was hollow, distant. 35 years ago, I delivered a baby who didn't survive. The mother was just 17 years old, and she stopped, unable to continue. Sophie's crying had subsided to quiet whimpers, but she was still reaching toward Dr. Chun. With both arms, her small face twisted with grief that seemed far too mature for her age. "Please," Sophie whispered, her voice breaking, "please tell me where my baby is. I need to hold him again." Dr. Chun sank to her knees right there in the grocery store aisle, bringing herself to Sophie's eye level. "What was your baby's name?" she asked gently, though her voice was shaking. "Michael," Sophie said without hesitation. "His name was Michael, and he had the tiniest fingers and the sweetest little cry. But then he stopped breathing, and you took him away, and I never got to say goodbye." Dr. Chun's composure completely shattered. She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Around them, other shoppers had stopped to stare, but Jennifer barely noticed them. Her entire world had narrowed to this impossible conversation between her 3-year-old daughter and a stranger who seemed to know exactly what Sophie was talking about. "I'm sorry," Dr. Chun whispered through her tears. "I'm so sorry. I tried everything I could to save him, but he was too small, too early. And you were so young, and you were alone, and I didn't know how to help you through that kind of loss." Sophie wiggled out of Jennifer's arms and walked directly to Dr. Chun, her small hand reaching out to touch the doctor's tear-stained cheek. "I know you tried," Sophie said with a gentleness that seemed impossible from someone so young. "I could see how sad you were too, but I needed to hold him just once. I needed to tell him I loved him before he went to the light place." Jennifer felt like she was watching a dream or a nightmare. Her daughter was speaking with the emotional depth of someone who had experienced profound loss, using language and concepts that no 3-year-old should understand. "Sophie," Jennifer said carefully, "what are you talking about? You don't have a baby." Sophie turned to her with patient eyes that seemed to hold decades of sorrow. "Not now, Mama. But before I was Sophie, I was someone else. I was a girl who had a baby that was born too soon, and this lady was the doctor who tried to save him. She turned back to Dr. Chun, who was staring at her with a mixture of wonder and terror. I came back to find you because I needed to know what happened to Michael. I needed to know if he was okay, if he went to the peaceful place where babies go when they can't stay on Earth. Dr. Chun's voice was barely a whisper. What ... what was your name? Before you were Sophie? Lisa, Sophie said without hesitation. Lisa Marie Rodriguez. I was 17, and I was so scared. My mama had kicked me out when she found out about the baby, and I didn't have anywhere to go. I lived in the shelter downtown until Michael was born. Dr. Chun's face went completely white. Lisa Rodriguez. Room 314. You went into labor at 32 weeks. Her voice was mechanical, as if she was reading from a medical chart. The baby weighed 2 pounds, 4 ounces. We tried everything. The NICU team worked for hours, but his lungs weren't developed enough. She looked directly into Sophie's eyes. You held him for 10 minutes before he passed. You sang to him. A lullaby in Spanish. Sophie nodded, tears streaming down her small cheeks. I sang Dormit mi niño, the song my abuela used to sing to me. I wanted him to know he was loved before he had to go. Jennifer felt the world tilting around her. This conversation was impossible, but the details were too specific, too emotionally authentic to be anything but real. Somehow, her 3-year-old daughter was carrying the memories of a teenage mother who had lost her child decades ago. Dr. Chun, Jennifer said, her voice shaking. Is what she's saying true? Dr. Chun nodded slowly. Every word. Lisa Rodriguez was one of the most heartbreaking cases I ever handled. She was so young, so alone, and she loved that baby with everything she had when he died. She paused, wiping her eyes. She disappeared from the hospital that same night. We never saw her again. Sophie stepped closer to Dr. Chun, taking the doctor's hands in her tiny ones. I didn't disappear. I went to the bridge downtown, the one that goes over the river. I was so sad, and I missed Michael so much, and I didn't know how to live without him. Dr. Chun's eyes widened in horror. Lisa, no. Please tell me you didn't. I jumped, Sophie said simply, with a matter-of-fact tone of someone stating an obvious truth. I wanted to be with Michael. I wanted to hold him again in the place where babies go when they can't stay on Earth. The grocery store around them had faded into background noise. Jennifer was dimly aware of other customers, giving them a wide berth, of store employees whispering among themselves, but none of that mattered. Her daughter was recounting the final moments of a life that had ended in tragedy, and somehow, impossibly, she was doing it with the voice of the person who had lived it. What happened after? Dr. Chun asked, her voice barely audible. Sophie's expression grew peaceful, almost radiant. I found him. In the light place, Michael was waiting for me. He was perfect and whole, and he could breathe just fine there. We played together, and I got to hold him as much as I wanted. She paused, her small face serious with concentration. But then the light people told me that Michael had to go on to his next adventure, and that I had a choice. I could go with him, or I could come back to Earth to learn more about love and forgiveness. Why did you choose to come back? Because I needed to find you, Sophie said, looking directly into Dr. Chun's eyes. I needed to tell you that it wasn't your fault. You did everything you could to save Michael, and Lisa knew that. She never blamed you. Dr. Chun broke down completely, pulling Sophie into a gentle embrace. I've carried that guilt for 35 years. I became a doctor to save babies, and when I couldn't save yours, you saved so many others, Sophie said, patting Dr. Chun's back with the comforting gesture of someone much older. Lisa knows about all the babies you helped bring safely into the world. She's proud of you." Jennifer watched this impossible scene unfold, her rational mind struggling to process what she was witnessing. But beneath the confusion and fear, she felt a deep sense of awe. Her daughter, or the soul inhabiting her daughter's body, was offering healing to someone who had been carrying decades of unresolved grief. "Sophie," Jennifer said gently, "do you remember being Lisa all the time?" Sophie pulled back from Dr. Chun and considered the question seriously. "Not all the time. Mostly I'm just Sophie, and I like being Sophie. But sometimes, especially when I'm around people who knew Lisa, the memories come back really strong." She looked between Jennifer and Dr. Chun. "I think I came back as Sophie so I could have a happy childhood this time. Lisa never got to be kid. She had to grow up too fast. But I also came back to help people who were hurt by what happened to Lisa and Michael." Dr. Chun wiped her eyes, looking at Sophie with wonder. "Is there anything else Lisa wants me to know?" Sophie nodded solemnly. "She wants you to know that Michael is okay. He's in the most beautiful place, surrounded by love and light, and he's not in pain anymore. And she wants you to stop carrying the sadness. She says you've helped so many families, and it's time for you to forgive yourself." She paused, tilting her head as if listening to something only she could hear. "And she says thank you for being kind to her when she was scared. You held her hand when Michael was born, and you cried with her when he died. That meant everything to her." Dr. Chun nodded, unable to speak through her tears. Finally, she managed to whisper, "Thank you. Thank you for coming back to tell me this." Sophie smiled, and for a moment, Jennifer could see both her daughter and someone else entirely in that expression. A young woman who had found peace after decades of separation from her child. "I think I'm ready to just be Sophie now," Sophie said, her voice returning to the typical cadence of a 3-year-old. Lisa got to say what she needed to say, and now she can rest. As they prepared to leave the store, Dr. Chun pressed a business card into Jennifer's hand. "Please, if Sophie ever wants to talk about this again, or if you have questions, call me. What happened here today, ... It's changed everything for me." Jennifer nodded, still struggling to process the extraordinary encounter. As they walked to their car, Sophie skipped beside her, chattering about wanting to watch cartoons when they got home, seemingly back to being a normal 3-year-old. But that night, as Jennifer tucked Sophie into bed, her daughter looked up at her with those wise, ancient eyes. "Mama, do you think I'm weird because I remember being someone else?" Jennifer smoothed Sophie's hair, choosing her words carefully. "I think you're special, sweetheart. I think you came into this world carrying a very important message, and you delivered it to someone who really needed to hear it." Sophie smiled sleepily. "I'm glad I could help Dr. Chun feel better. Lisa was sad for a long time, but now she's not sad anymore. And Michael is happy in the light place." She yawned, settling deeper into her pillow. "I probably won't remember being Lisa much longer. But that's okay, because I have my own life to live now, my own family to love." As Sophie drifted off to sleep, Jennifer sat beside her bed, marveling at the extraordinary child she'd been blessed to raise. Whether Sophie truly carried the reincarnated soul of Lisa Rodriguez, or whether this was some other inexplicable phenomenon, one thing was certain. Her daughter had brought healing to someone who desperately needed it. Dr. Chun called the next week to tell them that she had finally been able to sleep through the night for the first time in decades. The guilt that had haunted her career, the weight of every baby she couldn't save, had been lifted by the forgiveness of a young mother, who had found a way to reach across death itself to offer absolution. Sophie never again spoke of being Lisa or of baby Michael. She grew up to be a compassionate, empathetic child with an unusual ability to comfort others in their darkest moments. And sometimes, When Jennifer watched her daughter console a friend or show kindness to a stranger, she could see the echo of Lisa's love, a love so powerful it had transcended death, returned to heal old wounds, and then gracefully stepped aside to let new life flourish. The grocery store encounter became family legend, a reminder that love never truly dies, and that sometimes the most profound healing comes from the most unexpected sources. And in the space between what we can prove and what we choose to believe, the story of Lisa, Michael, and Sophie stands as testament to the idea that some connections are too strong for death to break, and that forgiveness, when offered with pure love, has the power to transform lives across the boundaries of time itself. If Sophie's story touches your heart the way it does mine, please subscribe to our channel. We explore the mysteries of human connection, the unexplained bonds that tie us together across time and circumstance, and the remarkable ways that love and forgiveness can heal even the deepest wounds. Your subscription helps us continue sharing these incredible tales that remind us that we're all more connected than we know, and that sometimes the most impossible stories carry the most important truths about the power of love to transcend every boundary.